Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and on today's video I'll be showing you how I made this beautiful short. So for this short I'll be needing 1.5 yards of fabric, or you can go in with 1 yard of fabric depending on your body size. So I'll start by cutting out the front piece, and I went ahead to place my fabric on fold so that I have 2 pieces of this fabric for my front pattern. Because I'm using a fabric that has a layered pattern, I'll try to determine what part of the pattern will be my ending part of the short. So I went for the blue dark part, flowered part for the end of my short. So I'm just going to place my tape from there to the middle part to determine the full length of my short. So the full length I was going to use was 19, and I'll add 2 inches allowance, sewing allowance, just to fold the end of the short. So I just went in and drew out my 21 inches. That's the full length I was working with. So from that point is our waistline, but because I'm going to have a band attached to this short, an elastic band, so my band is going to be 1.5 inches. I was going to take out 1.5 inches from that point that I have, but also I'll be adding 1/2 inch for my sewing allowance on the short. So altogether I have just 1 inch to remove from that point that I had. So I went ahead to mark out my new waistline. The new waistline is going to serve as our cutting off point when we start cutting, because we won't be needing the excess since we're having an attached band to this short. So placing my tape on my first waistline that I have, I'm just going to get my hip line. My hip line, I'm using 9 inches to get my hip line. So I'll just go ahead to mark out 9 inches across, and I'll roll it out to the end of the fabric. Then again, I'm going to measure out my crotch line. My crotch line that I'm using is 11. And for you to get an accurate crotch line for your clients, you can just go ahead to tell your customer to sit on a plain flat surface, and sit up straight. Then from there, you place your tape from the waist of your client to the point where her buttocks touches the flat surface or the seat. That will be your crotch line. So I've gone ahead to take my crotch line and I've ruled it out. So now I have 4 points altogether. My first waistline, my second waistline, which will be the cutting point when I start cutting, because I'm removing for my band. Then I have my hip line and my crotch line. So for this side of the fabric directly facing me, I'm going to take it as the side of my trouser. So from that side, I'm taking out 1 inch. So I'm going in by 1 inch. That 1 inch will be the starting point where we'll take our lower thigh measurement. My waist measurement will be the same as my hip measurement because we're adding an elastic band to it. So my hip measurement is 40, so divided by 4 is 10, and I added 2 inches allowance. I did the same thing on my hip line. My hip measurement is 40 divided by 4. I got 10 inches plus 2 inches allowance. Then on my crotch line, I took the measurement of my thigh, the highest part of the thigh. You take your measurements. Mine was 27 divided by 2 is 13.5. So I marked out 13.5 and I added 1.5 inches allowance. So from that point that I went in by 1 inch, I'm going to take my thigh measurement. So this is our second thigh measurement, the lower part of the thigh where your short is going to stop, the full length of your short. So mine is 20 and divided by 2, which is 10. I added 1 extra inch allowance. I'll go ahead and connect my lines. So from the part of the fabric facing me at the hip line, I'm going to connect from the hip line to that point where I went in by 1 inch at the full length. Next, I'll connect the point that I have on my waistline to the point I have on my hip line with the help of a rule. Then using a curve rule, or you can just cover with your hand, you're going to make a curve from the hip line to meet your crotch line. So from the crotch line, you connect to the full length, the mark you have at your full length. So I just went ahead to connect with my rule from the crotch line, a slanted line, to my full length. So I added 1 inch by the side, but it's quite optional if you want, because I just wanted that part of the crotch, side of the crotch, to be a little bit free, so it's optional. Remember, we had 2 waistlines, the first and the second one, and we're cutting off from the second one because we're going to be adding a band to this short. So just went ahead to cut out my fabric on the line. To work on my back part, I'm going to be placing a fabric on fold, and I'll place my front pattern on the fabric that I have on fold to cut out my back piece. So here, I didn't have enough material, so you see I was trying to manage material, but the material has to be a little bit wider in width than what you have for your front pattern. So from there, I'll just go ahead to take out extra allowances. So the front and the back pattern are actually the same with just few differences. So from the crotch line, I'm just going to go out by another 1.5 inches. Then at my waistline, I'll go out by 1 inch. At the hip line, I'm going out by 1 inch too. So I'll just connect these dots down to the crotch line where I went out by 1.5 inch. Then from that point of the crotch line, I'll connect it down to my full length with 1 inch. I came out by 1 inch at my full length, and I connected that part of my crotch line to my full length. 1 inch. So from the waistline of the back fabric, I'm going to go ahead to go up by 1.5 inches to 2 inches. But because my own fabric that I'm making use of, it's not enough, I only went up by 0.75 inch. But on a normal note, and for someone that has a big bum, you're supposed to go up with 1.5 inches or 2 inches. But I just went up by 0.5 inch. And I took that, from that point, I slanted it to meet the front waistline. So with your wool, you can just do the same thing. You slant it to meet the front waistline. Close to this point, draw down the line and connect it to when we're done with tracing out the back piece. And at the other side, we are not adding any allowance to the other side of the short. So we just go ahead and cut out what we are having now. Now I have my front piece and my back piece, two pieces of them. So for my band, I told you my band is going to be 1.5 inches. So I'm going to place this band on fold and cut out my 1.5 inches, then add 1/2 inch allowance. So now it's on fold, and I'll just go ahead and mark it out. Then the length of this band, it's going to be the length of your hip measurement, because we are going to add an elastic band that will hold it together to fit the waist. So my hip measurement is 40 inches, and I went ahead to mark out the 40 inches. This fabric was not enough, so I had to add extra fabric to meet up with the 40 inches. So I added 1 inch seam allowance for the band. That will be what we use to close up the band when we are done. I just go ahead and mark out my 2 inches round throughout the band, and I'll cut it out. I'll go ahead to sew my front crotch on the machine and do the same thing for the back crotch parts on my machine. Just follow the line and sewing with 1/2 inch allowance. So this was when I was done sewing the crotch parts with my 1/2 inch allowance, and I went ahead to make a notch round that part. So opening it up, this is what I have, and you can see the crotch part is almost ready. So I've placed my front and my back part together with the right sides of the fabric facing each other. So just go ahead to close up the down part of my crotch like I've showed you. So just go down to your machine and sew up that part. Then for the sides, you're going to hold the sides together. You know the back pattern is slightly wider than the front pattern, so you're just going to hold it up together to be equal. Then you sew it down with 1/2 inch allowance. So this was what I had after sewing it on my sewing machine, and you can see I did the down part and I also sewed together the side. So I went ahead to turn it inside out to see what it looks like on the good part. So now I'm just going to go ahead to attach my band to the up part and also fold the leg by 2 inches with 2 inches. So this is what I have as my band after I have attached some more materials to the band I had before. So I'm just going to take my shorts and attach this band to it. So we're attaching it from the inside. So listen to this carefully. We're attaching the right side of the band to the wrong side of the short. So you're going to open the shorts inside out, just as I did above, and place the right side of the band on the wrong side of the shorts. Then you can actually, with the help of a pin it down before you go ahead to sew on your machine. And for this, you can choose any end to start from. For me, I started from the middle back to attach my band. I was done pinning it down and I went ahead to sew it on my sewing machine. I sew it round the corners. Then at the center back that I started from, I left it open at the center back, and as you can see, it had extra allowance for me to cover it up. So I'll just go ahead and hold the two ends together just like I'm doing and sew it together on my sewing machine with a straight stitch. I'm going to run a straight stitch down on the band. After I was done running the stitch, I also went ahead to close up that angle that was open on my sewing machine. So this is what I had after attaching my band. So I'm done with the band and we're just going to go ahead to fold the band inside into the right side. So remember, we had 1 inch allowance for the band and I've used 1/2 inch to sew the band to the short. So the remaining 1/2 inch or the other end, I'm just going to use it to place the band on the right side of the short. So this is me making my 1/2 inch mark. Then I'm going to press it down to cover the sewing that we've just made. So you can use the help of a pin to pin it down to cover up the joining of the other side of the band and the short. So I just did it throughout and pinned it down and went ahead to sew it down on my sewing machine. This was what it looked like after pinning it down. So I'm going to just take it straight to the sewing machine and sew. So it's best to pin it down to avoid errors and difficulty in sewing it down. So I advise you to pin it down with a pin. And this is what I had after sewing it down on my sewing machine. Then the next thing we're going to do is to attach a band. So I left a space. I didn't sew down the whole length completely. I left a small space for us to insert our elastic band. Then next thing I do is just to go ahead and fold. Remember, we had 2 inches extra allowance for the length, so I'm going to fold it in with the 2 inches. So this is what it looks like after folding in the length of the shorts. And next thing we're going to do is to attach our band, our elastic band. Okay, so I'm making use of a 1 inch elastic band, and this is a safety pin I'm going to use to drive it into the band space. So first of all, I'm going to measure out the length of the band that I'm going to use. My waist is 31 inches, but I won't cut exactly 31 inches. I will take out about 1.5 or 2 inches less because I want it to be very firm and clipped on my waist. I don't want it to be the same measurement with my waist to have a firmer grip. So from that point, we left a space at the band. I'm going to insert my safety pin with my elastic band. So from there, I'm just going to push the elastic band throughout the space of the band till I come out at the other end of the space. So I just did like so and continue to go around the waist till I reach the end of the band. Then you stretch. Stand on your hand. So once I've reached the end of the band, I'm just going to stitch it down together with the other end of the elastic band. So once you stitch it down, you go ahead to close up that space that you put your band through, and you have your short intact. So you can see the short turned out very nice and beautiful. Okay, as a side note, looking at this video, remember I told you about making the waist at the back higher by adding 1.5 inches or 2 inches. But because my fabric was not enough, I just made do with what I had, which was about 0.75 inches, and that is why the waist at the back came down. So if you're making yours, you're supposed to add 1.5 to 2 inches to raise the waist higher because of your bum. I hope this video was valuable and helpful enough to you. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Bye.